Really excited now about our next guest. Ran into him at Clemson this weekend, and it is Wes Durham of the ACC Network joining us now. Wes, thanks so much for the time. How are you this weekend? How's the travel treating you?
Uh, well, the hard lifting is over. Clemson to San Francisco and back within 9 to 12 hours is not exactly what we all call for, Billy. But, I've recovered, and now it's, let's see, what day? Tuesday. No, Wednesday. So
Yeah.
I'm good. Yeah. There we go. I got my days straight, so we're ready for this week. How's that?
Well, at least you're not going to be showing up somewhere a day early or a day late. We've
Yeah.
got that down now, so we're here to help in that regard. But you'll be on the call this weekend, Virginia at North Carolina, 11 a.m. on ACC Network, of course. So everybody tune in. That's 11 a.m. Central, Eastern Time, noon for those of you. UVA favored by 10.5 here. This is a game that, of course, is going to be another inflection point potentially for Bill Belichick in his program. But let's talk about the Hoos. They've been doing such a great job this year, coming away with some hard-fought wins. Games like Louisville, of course, Washington State come to mind.
Yeah.
This Tony Elliott bunch is just not going away, though.
No, they're not, and they've got the benefit of a schedule that works for them too, right? Because the Duke game sits out there like a beacon ahead. Even though the Blue Devils lost to Georgia Tech last week, Billy, I still think that Virginia and Duke are going to have some degree of stake in this in terms of possible representation. It is interesting the way this has worked for Tony Elliott. There was a lot of chatter in the offseason about Virginia had more resources. You want to lead that to be money, that's fine with me. Virginia had a ton more resources. They certainly had some patience in Tony's work there. We all know about the horrific tragedy they had a couple of years ago. And it finally felt like, in all honesty, that Tony Elliott had some footing as Virginia's football coach. And sure enough, Chandler Morris has become this thing, right? And as you guys know from Chad being in the Dallas Metroplex, and certainly Chandler being around college football for as many places as he's been, and certainly at North Texas last year in the Denton area, the guy can play. But it's not just Chandler Morris. It's a big part, but they've also been very intentional with things they've done in the portal. The two backs, Harrison Whaley, who came from Wyoming, who was the active Division I rushing leader coming into the season, and still may be career rushing leader. And then Jamari Taylor, who came from North Carolina Central, to go along with this. Don't ask me how this happened, but Daniel Rickard is a 235-pound defensive end who makes plays behind the line, tackles for losses and sacks, and he had a huge play the other night against Washington State. So it just feels like the transfer portal has really worked for them. And then they brought back some other guys who had contributed in years past, and they're pretty sturdy in the offensive line. The left side in particular is homegrown. The right side's got a little more transfer portal flavor to it. But, yeah, I'm excited to kind of see what Virginia is. We had them against Stanford early in the package this fall. They were really impressive that night at home in Charlottesville. And now we get a game, Virginia-Carolina, for Mustang fans who might be watching. The Virginia-Carolina game's got some history to it. It's called the South's oldest rivalry. Georgia-Auburn is the Deep South's oldest rivalry. So remember the definition and differences there, Billy. But Virginia-Carolina, when the other team has been ranked, the unranked team typically wins. And Mac Brown lost 2 games to Virginia, I think at Tony Elliott's first 2 years as head coach, where he was the ranked team. And now can Carolina, who played better last Friday night at Cal, can Carolina pull that trick on Saturday at home at Kenan Stadium? We'll see. The Tar Heels will have to play a lot better than they did at Cal, and they can't turn the ball over and have some foolish penalties, but we'll see how it goes. It could be an interesting game. We'll see. It also could be a runaway freight train for the Cavaliers.
Yeah, that was my kind of wonder going into this one is, are you going to see UNC say, look at what we almost did. We almost went across the country. Right. We almost did this. We almost did that. We just let it slip through our fingertips. Let's go show that wasn't completely out of sorts for maybe what UNC could be in the second half of the year. We know it's been a tough sledding for the Tar Heels so far, but this could be that, or this could be, a get-right game for Virginia. They're probably not feeling the best coming off of that win.
Well, that's the other thing, too. Washington State's kind of become this weird team nationally, not just because they don't have any kind of conference structure. They play Ole Miss to the edge. Then they turn around and play Virginia to the edge. I don't know who they got left, but they're in trouble.
Look out.
Yeah. I think that Carolina, in watching the Cal game yesterday, Carolina did some good things. I'm not sure Carolina did enough good things. Offensively, they had a heartbeat, which is more than we could say the previous 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Defensively, they've not been bad. They've not been great either, but they've not been brutal. Tyler Thompson, a defensive end, had a couple of sacks for him the other night to take the team lead. There you go.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
that's a Bill Belichick defense, right?
Yeah, and that's the part. If you had anything to surprise me with this year, it's that they've not been better defensively. Because historically at the NFL level, and I know it's a different world, but even his scheme and structure has been proven, right?
Right.
And they've just not been very good. The other thing too is, and I know you can appreciate this because of the way you followed SMU. Carolina has the 73 new players, right?
Yeah.
31 of them are in the 2 deep.
Yeah.
31, Billy. That's a
Crazy.
huge number.
Yeah.
It's just a massive number. So we'll see what happens. I think Carolina needs to, quiet things down and take care of themselves as much as anything else. And that's somebody who's watched Carolina football basically their entire life. But I find it interesting. And I'm really interested to see just what the environment's like. And now, here's the lure of the old Carolina of yesteryear. With basketball starting, what's the interest in football?
Oof.
So we'll see.
Yeah, winding down there, I saw, of course, Duke in their own exhibition last night. Packed house, so they look the part. UNC hoping to jump back on their level. We'll have a ton of basketball conversation around the league in the near future. Excited about that. But the Wake Forest SMU game,
sure,
that is an intriguing one.
Mm-hmm.
Typical trap game. Wake Forest play Georgia Tech well. You go back out to the East Coast if you're SMU. Early kick, all the things. You're banged up. Who knows how stable Kevin Jennings' ankle is a week after. SMU just has to find a way, though. That's where they're at. They're at the top of the league in as one of the unbeatens in conference play.
Yeah, I think you bring up a really good point. Number one, the return to the East Coast. But this is the part where I think the brand of the program helps this year's team. Because these guys, we had the Stanford game on the West Coast last year where they went out there and obviously took care of business. The second part about where they are from a brand standpoint is I think this coaching staff does a marvelous job in preparation. I mean, we've had, obviously, as you know, we've had the Mustangs 3 times this year. I think it's fascinating to watch them get ready every week and to have these coaching visits. And we had them 2 weeks ago against Syracuse before we had them last week. And I was really appreciative of the way they talked about their preparation and kind of how they get ready. Jennings is a warrior, Billy. I mean, he is. It's amazing to watch because I think the ankle sprain was in the opening series last week.
Yeah.
And then he was gutting it out. And then you want to talk about stunning me was when we had the quarterback run stuff in the late stages of the first half. I mean, when he was doing the quarterback run stuff in the late stages to get them a score before the half, I thought, holy smokes. I mean, he's putting it on the line. So I think we've seen at least 2 kind of warrior mentalities at quarterback this year in Jennings and Haynes King at Georgia Tech. Oh. And I think those 2 guys are starting to surface. Look, you can't take away, despite last Friday night, you can't take away what Beck had done at Miami. But I would say Jennings and King are slowly emerging here to the top of just like heartbeats of their respective teams as this season goes on.
And for Wake Forest, they could end up playing 2 quarterbacks in this one. Deshaun Purdy had success against Oregon State, and of course Robbie Ashford's been a little banged up, but has that running dynamic to him. That's kind of the hard part about, I think, game planning for this too. You just don't know what Jake Dickert and his staff are going to do with a bye week as well.
Yeah, they came out against Georgia Tech off a bye, scheming Georgia Tech straight up. So I would expect if I'm Scott Simons and Casey and Rhett, they're going to be thinking about scheming in particular to specifics of the formations, right? And that's exactly what they did against Georgia Tech. Bottom line, though, as much as the quarterback is in question, if Damon Claiborne's playing, that's not a question. That guy's a pro. He's a terrific football player, and he has run behind a wide variety of offensive lines in his Wake Forest career. So to me, if Purdy's the quarterback, if Robbie Ashford comes in for a package, given his health, it's still about getting DeMond Claiborne on the ground. Wake has been in trouble when they can't run the ball. If they can't run the ball, then I'm not sure the quarterback can beat SMU. And here's the thing: it's good news, I think, for the Mustangs. Now, I may be missing something here in the logic or translation of television, but it feels to me like SMU is starting to finally get some concepts defensively. Now, they did give up 2 balls last week, and Wesco almost caught a third.
Yeah,
but
but
Clemson didn't run the ball across the street against them.
Yeah,
I mean, SMU buttoned it up last week and forced Christopher Vizina to try and beat him, and he couldn't. And for me, that is an incredibly encouraging sign for where the Mustangs may have to go in the second half.
Yeah, they were something else in the pass defense this whole season for the most part, but they have gotten better. They're finding their way in conference play a little bit, and we'll see how they do it. And if it's Robbie Ashford, that kind of plays into it a little bit, for them, having to defend Claiborne, but if you're kind of focused a little bit more on the runner, Robbie Ashford, maybe that helps. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's tough to see them not giving up at least 250 through the air, but this
you've already got a number in your head.
A 250 would not be bad though.
Okay, all right, okay.
Remember, in September they gave up 430 yards per game in the air, which crazy. But that was how the cookie crumbled for the Mustangs as they figured things out. They look to stay unbeaten. Georgia Tech looks to stay unbeaten. Mm-hmm. This is an interesting one for me from this perspective. I think from a matchup wise, I know there's a big line on this one. Syracuse can't move the ball, but can they just kind of slow down this Georgia Tech attack? If I'm looking at some of these other week 9 games, when you look at the ones that are Pitt taking on NC State, that might be an intriguing one, but a closer matchup. And then you've got the big spreads like Miami, Stanford, Louisville, Boston College.
Right.
Syracuse, Georgia Tech, I don't know. I could see that one being just a touch closer after kind of that war between Georgia Tech and Duke.
Yeah, the interesting part about Georgia Tech and Syracuse, and Brent Key talks about nameless, faceless opponents. That's kind of his Nick Saban preaching coming into play. However, there was a lot said post-game last year after Syracuse beat Georgia Tech. There was a lot said by Fran Brown. There were some things said prior to the game by Brent Key that got interpreted to Fran Brown in one way after the game. He made another comment. And I only bring this up because out of nowhere in the offseason, one of the Tech players talked about the Syracuse game. Mm-hmm. And it just came out of nowhere in a conversation. Look, we had losses last year like Syracuse, things like that. And whenever a specific loss is mentioned, like in May, Billy, or in July, that's when you kind of have that thing, remember, in the back of your head where you go, aha, okay. Well, this is kind of the aha for me. I think this game has a little bit more under the hood for Georgia Tech than others would think. Yep. Here's the other part. They've got a couple of games before they get to their last bye. Their last bye is November the 8th. I think this is a critical stretch for Georgia Tech. Everybody can, we're already, like last night I was watching the college football top 25 show, right? And they were already talking about like the Georgia game and the percentage to go to the ACC championship.
Yep.
And that from a year ago, that can wear on you a little bit. Brent Key's got a veteran team. If you look at their roster, they've got transfer kids, but they've also got a lot of older guys, 20 some odd seniors, I think. When you start to look at them on paper, their focus and attention to detail week to week is probably going to be the biggest critical piece of their success. I think that pays off against Syracuse. Now, look, you may be right about the game, but I think at the end of the day, Syracuse is getting their full attention. And that's the part that is interesting to me because they found a way Saturday, right? They kind of found a way in the Duke game. King made plays. Omar Daniels' fumble recovery is a bizarre play. But the idea that they closed the game like they did is encouraging to Georgia Tech. I thought they were okay defensively. I was really concerned for Georgia Tech where they were defensively. But I still think Duke's really good. I think Georgia Tech's good. I think Virginia and SMU are good. I think Miami's good. I think those are the 5 we're going to be solved with here at the end. It's going to be interesting to see how the Jackets handle this on Saturday. But Fran Brown off a bye. Who knows who's playing? We saw Justice Ross Simmons go to the bench in Dallas. He has not been back since, right?
Yep.
It's going to be really interesting to see. Now, Stanford, I just don't think the West to East stuff has gone very well.
No.
I mean, only one time has Cal won, only one time has Stanford won going West to East in the 2 years they've been in the league. In fact, now this year, the East to West isn't going very well, except for Duke. Yeah. It's crazy. So, we'll see what happens. But I think Miami gets back on track this week. And I think that Miami-Florida State game in a couple of weeks is a really interesting game.
The Miami-SMU one in a couple weeks?
Miami-Florida State. I think Miami-Florida State Florida State and Clemson, right? They play.
Yes.
I think in a couple of weeks. That game's really interesting. Miami-SMU for you on November the 1st is all gas, no brakes.
Yeah.
The whole day.
We'll miss you that day. I know you.
You won't see me that day. I'm sorry. The Mustang folks who might have grown an affinity of somewhat to my work or you're not going to see me that day. You'll see somebody up the food chain.
Well, Wes, we hope to see you again soon on the show. Thanks so much for stopping by this morning, having some coffee with us. We appreciate it.
Billy, good luck with this. I'm excited for you and great to see you as always.
Thanks, Wes. Have a good one.
All right.
I do want to remind you guys about our friends at OPW Solutions. OPW Solutions would love for you guys to reach out to them, and they can show you the work that they can do for your business. They're a full-service commercial exterior maintenance company. They service North Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and they're expanding to new locations in 2026. They can do your commercial landscaping, power washing, snow and ice control. They also can paint your parking lot or put up Christmas lights for your business, fence maintenance, and much more. So make sure you give them a call, 214-444-2305. Sorry. Didn't want to give you the wrong number. 214-444-2305, or email them info@opwsolutions.com, or go to opwsolutions.com. Again, full service maintenance company there for your business, doing great work. And you can follow them on their socials as well to make sure that you get the full story from them on how they approach every single piece of their business and your business and servicing that. So we appreciate OPW Solutions for helping us out.